Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Recently at a webinar, one of the participants asked me a question that I'm asked so often, I thought I would do a video on it. The question goes something like this. Over and over again, I have this experience. I'm talking to somebody, and this little voice inside of me tells me, don't trust this guy. He's not telling you the truth. Why don't I listen to that voice? Other patients of mine have brought up similar things. For them, the voice says, don't buy this. It's overpriced and you really don't need it. Similarly, they end up ignoring the voice and spending money on something they'll never use. One patient of mine recounted a really consequential example. I met this guy and I liked him, but the voice was telling me, yeah, he's nice, but you know you're not in love with him. And instead of listening to the voice, she married him and had to get divorced 10 years later. So it leads to the question, why don't we listen to that still small voice inside? That voice is your instincts, and they're speaking to you. Now, everyone loves to say, just trust your instincts, and that's good advice. But I've also always wondered, what does that really mean? First of all, what are instincts? And secondly, how do you learn to trust them? And then there's the big question that nobody ever asks, which is, what if you take the risk of trusting your instincts and they turn out to be wrong or disastrously wrong? So I'm going to answer all three of these questions, starting with, what is an instinct? An instinct is a little nugget of wisdom that comes from somewhere beyond your ego. You can call it your unconscious, God, your higher power. I don't really care what you call it, but you know it's an instinct if it's speaking to you, but doesn't seem to be coming from you. The second characteristic of an instinct is more mysterious. Instincts aren't logical. You can't prove why you should do what your instincts are telling you to do. Really, where instincts are concerned, you don't get any kind of logical guarantee. You have to just act on them or not. And most of the time, we don't act on them. We ignore them. And there are lots of reasons for this, but I want to alert you to the two most obvious reasons we don't follow our instincts. The first is they often require us to do things that are risky and outside our comfort zone, and often out of character for us. Ultimately, our instincts are asking us to embody qualities that we're just not used to embodying. They're asking us to become more fully ourselves. And that feels inherently foreign and unsafe. There's a second reason we don't follow our instincts, which is much broader, and that is, in childhood, there's almost always someone, a parent, a teacher, sometimes it's a whole institution like the church or your school, telling us without putting it into words, don't trust your instincts, trust us. We know you better than you know yourself. And by the way, they're not always wrong. Children can do remarkably stupid things. When I was 8 years old, I got the great idea to strap cardboard flaps to my arms, climb up on the roof, and jump off the roof, flapping wildly in a vain attempt to fly. I just really wanted to fly. What can I say? Thankfully, nothing happened, but kids do stupid things and authority figures are there to tell them, no, don't do that. But the problem is there's often a deeper message, deeper than don't jump off the roof. And the deeper message is don't listen to yourself. Don't be yourself. So what happens over time is that our instincts are replaced with a drive to please and obey an external authority figure. And sadly, most of us never grow out of that. Which is why people's number one regret on their deathbed is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life other people expected of me. There's good news. There is a way to systematically strengthen your instincts. Phil Stutz calls who I learned this from, calls this the instinct cycle, and it has 4 steps to it. And it's called a cycle because you have to do the 4 steps over and over and over again for the rest of your life. The first step is called intuition. That's just listening to the quiet urging to do something that's often outside your comfort zone. Ask that person for their phone number. Interrupt that person, speak up and tell them you disagree with them. I'll give you a big example from my life. In 1982, after 3 years of law school and 3 years working as a lawyer, the voice told me, walk away, quit. When I asked, but what am I going to do? The voice said, trust me, just quit. So the first step is intuition. Just listen to that quiet exhortation. The second step is decision. You got to make a decision. Are you going to do it? Or are you going to make the choice not to do it? And by the way, it's okay sometimes not to follow an intuition. In 1982, it would have been okay not to quit right away, but instead spend some time researching other careers. But one way or another, making a decision is important because it acknowledges that you're taking your instincts seriously. So the first step is intuition. The second step is decision. The third step is action. You got to take action on the decision you made. For me, that meant literally walking up to my boss's office and saying, listen, I've made a decision. I've decided to quit the law firm. So the first step is intuition. The second is decision. The third is action. And the fourth step is gratitude. You always want to thank your instincts for showing up for you, for speaking to you, regardless of what happens. Regardless of what happens. If you consistently listen to your instincts, make decisions and take action based on them, and then thank them regardless of the results, your instincts are going to feel like you value them. And as a consequence, they're going to speak to you more consistently and more definitively. Which leads to the final question. What if your instincts turn out to be wrong? Now be careful here, because what we really mean by wrong is they lead you to a bad or difficult outcome. And the answer is, thank them anyway. Value them anyway. Ultimately, you don't trust your instincts because they're right. You trust them because they're yours. They are the deepest expression of where your soul needs to be in the world. And that's not always necessarily where you want to be. It's not always gratifying or enjoyable. It might be an uncomfortable place, but it's the place you're meant to be. When I quit law to become a therapist, I gave up a lot of prestige and money and security in exchange for a lot of uncertainty. For years, I felt like I blew it. For years, I was embarrassed to introduce myself as a former lawyer. Now, I thank God I trusted my instincts. I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I was exactly where I was supposed to be during that difficult transition. I had to learn not to care about the trappings of success, money, prestige, position. I had to learn to feel good about myself because I knew who I was, not because of the size of my bank account. Your instincts take you exactly where you're supposed to be, a set of circumstances you wouldn't necessarily have chosen, but that teach you lessons you definitely need to learn. Thanks for listening. See you again next time.